Hello, sir.
Hello there, Jason.
You ready to get started?
I am, but I think my shirt is too bright.
Very bright.
I think it's
Fly
very bright.
collar. Got the showing off the little skin there.
You know why? Because if it's tighter, then it looks too tight.
Oh
It
yeah.
goes from too tight to too loose.
They
There's
call
no
that
middle ground.
a little buttoned up there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do this. Welcome to Just Curious Media. This is Let's Talk Movies, and I'm Jason Connell. On the show today, I'm joined by special guest Sal Rodriguez.
Hello there, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you're very welcome, Sal. It's good to have you back. It's been a while. Not really.
Has it been? No, it hasn't been a while.
We just did back-to-back episodes. No, it's been a little while. We've done a few episodes, a lot of solo episodes, but it's good to have you back. We talked about this a week ago because today we're talking about Gremlins, 1984, just rewatched.
Wow. Yeah, nice. 1984.
Yeah.
And
You would have been
84 was
like
a good
2.
year. It's a good year.
Yes, it was. Let me bring the poster up for those on YouTube.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, the classic poster.
Yeah.
So there it is. There it is, a thing of beauty. You see hands coming out, a mogwai. And let me just say, I did some research, I've watched this movie, I was revisiting the movie, loved it all over again, I got to say. But when I was watching it, and it had been a while, it's like, oh wait, are they gremlins? Are they mogwais? Well, here's what I've learned from the dialect of Chinese Cantonese. The mogwai means devil or demon or gremlin.
Oh.
So they're little devils, these little guys. Not so much our main mogwai, but we'll save that for the episode as we delve in. But let me give the synopsis, and we'll ping pong back and forth. We're also going to play the trailer. We have a special feature. We kind of have another special guest in this episode over your left shoulder.
Oh, yes.
We'll introduce him shortly. But here's the synopsis for Gremlins. A young man inadvertently breaks 3 important rules concerning his new pet and unleashes a horde of malevolently, oh my gosh, what is that? Malevolently mischievous monsters on a small town. Wow, that's really well said, and that's right to the point. And we'll get into the 3 important rules shortly, which are hilarious.
Jason, I just imagine being that guy who does that.
You're
that guy that unleashes these creatures.
Oh yeah. Who did this?
Yeah.
Jason, well, I can't blame him entirely. Giving him the responsibility is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
He is a high schooler. And then he's friends with a younger kid who puts this thing in motion. But again, let's not get ahead of ourselves. So the release date, June 8th, 1984. Genre, comedy, fantasy, horror. Yeah, I guess that covers it. I first saw this on VHS, or it could have been HBO, but in the mid-'80s. I didn't see it in the theater, but I saw it like right when it came on either VHS or HBO. How about you, Sal?
I think this was a big movie time for me and my family, or even just me, because I would catch the bus to the movie theater on my own at least once a week. And I'm pretty certain that I saw this in its original release in 84.
Wow. Were you scared?
No. Yeah. Jason, by that time I'd
I
already seen
know
The
what you've been
Exorcist.
saying.
Rosemary's Baby. By that time I'd seen it all. No, I thought of Gremlins as more silly. It was more of a fun, silly movie. I was never afraid or scared of Gremlins. No,
It's a classic though, and it's also a Christmas movie. In the way that Die Hard is, I would say. It's definitely during the holidays. I mean, this mogwai is a Christmas present.
Yes.
So let's not forget that. So let's delve into who put this together, because there's some factoids here. Then we'll get into the movie more. So we're not doing a scene-by-scene breakdown. We're doing broad strokes. We're doing broad strokes, memorable scenes, takeaways, meeting our guest. But I want to start at the top because it is the executive producer is infamous with blockbusters. And that is Steven Spielberg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. You start there.
I forgot.
Doom. It's why we're still talking about this movie, Sal, because this is who was behind it. He didn't have time to direct it. He was off doing one of the Indiana Joneses. Sought out the director, who is Joe Dante. And that's, because Spielberg, that's what happens. He was so in demand. It's like, hey, can you do Poltergeist? No, but I'll get this guy to do that. He couldn't do it all. So he was producing and obviously directing. But when he was producing, he still had a play in things. So he helped get Joe Dante. Now, Joe Dante did The Burbs, Inner Space, Explorers, Twilight Zone. He had one of the scenes in the movie with Spielberg, The Howling, and those are in reverse. Most recent, well, 89, The Burbs, but all the way back, The Howling helped get him this job, because that's a horror movie. And then this is really this is more comedy horror, I would say.
Yeah, The Howling was not comedy at all.
No, not at all.
Now, wait a second, though. Hang on. I did think that last scene in The Howling, even as a kid, where, she's a newscaster and she becomes like a cute, fluffy werewolf. I always thought that was kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, no, he can do that. He can kind of intermingle the two. And that's why he was on the scene to make this movie. Now, not only did I watch the movie in the last week, I listened to 2 different director commentaries. He's on there with the producer and who created the Mogwais, who I'll save that as well. And then he's on there with the cast. And I got some more factoids. It was really interesting to hear. Joe Dante is well-spoken, has his own podcast, really, really good stuff. But the writer, Chris Columbus, now you may remember the name, maybe not. He also wrote 9 Months, Young Sherlock Holmes, The Goonies.
Nice.
Went on to become a big-time director. He did 2 of the Harry Potter movies. He also directed 9 Months, Mrs. Doubtfire, Home Alone, Adventures in Babysitting. This guy is legit. So sometimes you wonder, like, oh yeah, that was a really good movie. You call it silly, but it's memorable. It's held up. Well, because look who's behind it already. This isn't a fly-by-night operation. These are legit heavyweights in the film industry.
Jason, when I say silly, I mean that word fantasy, like the Harry Potter movies, like Lord of the Rings. Yeah. I would say that realm is not really my favorite.
Gotcha.
So I think that, you know why? Because there's literally no rules. You can just do whatever, right?
Sal Rodriguez has just been replaced in episode.
No, but no. But Jason, I love horror and I love comedy.
Yeah.
So I always saw Gremlins as a comedy and a horror, never really in the fantasy category, even though it categorizes itself as horror, comedy, fantasy.
And that's IMDb's genres. I agree with you. When I saw it again, I forgot that, hey, there are some scenes here that really push the envelope. And in a good way, to me, like, oh, this is great. It's not a kid's movie. In fact, when I saw it when I was a kid, I'm sure there was moments I thought, wow, these guys, well, the mean Gremlins are really just too much. Like you said, no rules. But this isn't like your normal run-of-the-mill G or PG movie either. It crosses over that. People die in this movie.
Well, Jason, that's what I was going to ask you. One thing you never talk about on Let's Talk Movies, I don't ever hear you get into the rating system.
Well, we do get into it on this episode.
Okay.
And that's a good point. And maybe we should do it more often, because we've been a little desensitized to things. There was a time where the rating meant, are you going to see this movie? Can you get into this movie?
Yeah.
Right. We were younger, but it's a really good point. But we do get into it here for obvious reasons. And it's kind of historic. So
what, Jason, I just want to be clear. I don't think my mother cared about the rating system
she
either.
Didn't care. Who's this guy's guardian? Me. All right. This is rated X. This is Midnight Cowboy. It's okay. Let's go. All right. So the composer, Jerry Goldsmith, rest in peace. We lost him July 21st, 2004 at 75. But let me tell you, Sal, this man, Goldsmith, 18 Oscar nominations.
Wow.
1 win, which seems like that's completely out of whack, but he won for The Omen in 1976.
Nice.
A movie right up your alley.
Yeah. Because I like
Damien.
Yeah, I like the evil.
You do.
Like that's what makes it scary, is the evil.
Evil.
Yes.
I agree. I totally agree. Now, some of the movies that he was nominated for: LA Confidential, Basic Instinct, Hoosiers, Poltergeist, which I just talked about, Star Trek, the movie, actually the first Star Trek movie, Chinatown, Patton, Planet of the Apes. Some classic movies, and so many more. Those are just some of the ones he was nominated for. So again, great score. Go back and watch this movie. It's like, oh my gosh, it's just they got all the workings here. It's like a
I think
great
it's something
band.
that you might not appreciate the score of a movie like Gremlins.
You may not. Well, go back and watch it again. And I
Okay.
noticed it right away, like, oh my gosh. Now the creature designer, Chris Walas.
Wow.
Now, that may ring a bell to you, Sal, because we've talked about Chris Walas before, because he won an Oscar for creating The Fly.
Wow.
We know what that's called, right?
Oh, Brundlefly. Yeah.
Brundlefly.
Yeah.
He created it, won the Oscar. He also created, creatures for Enemy Mine, Raiders of the Lost Ark, many more. Did the Gremlins, which is amazing. And he was on one of the commentary tracks, and he was phenomenal to hear how they were doing it. Because listen, this movie, it works, but these puppets were animatronic and only could do so much. So they would do things. It's like the old Texas switch, I guess they called it. They'd have one of the mogwais in a scene, and the scene's going on, and they'd put it down and do a switch where one could move its, a little bit of move an ear or something, because that's how limited they were. But when you're dealing with those limitations, sometimes you make better films. You can't just make it all CG.
Jason,
Right?
did I hear about the Texas switch in a Tarantino commentary or a Tarantino film?
You could have. A lot of people do it. It comes up a lot.
No, but I've never heard it before until now. You reminded me. I've only heard it once before.
Yeah, well, I've heard it on lots of commentaries.
Okay.
Yeah, they put him down. Wayless would grab it and swap out with the one that can do something else in scene where it's out of camera. Really cool stuff. So I was getting all these little nuggets.
I like it.
Now I'll quickly bang out the cast so we can delve into more. But we have, I guess, Hoyt Axton, and he plays Randall Peltzer. Rest in peace, first of all, to Hoyt Axton. Passed away October 26, 1999 at 61. He plays the dad who gets the mogwai initially and really puts this thing into motion. But quickly about Hoyt, great voice, great presence. He was in The Black Stallion. He played the father in The Black Stallion. He popped up on so many shows, Sal. One that stood out, Different Strokes.
Nice.
He played Sam's father in 2 episodes.
Wait, Sam was the little redheaded country
Sam
singer?
wasn't Mr. D's. No, only Kimberly was his, biologically.
Yes.
Sam was son to Hoyt Axton. And
well, that's what I didn't remember
wife.
that Sam had a father besides Drummond.
Well, he did have a biological father.
Wow.
This is the actor.
I'm gonna check it out.
One of his other claim to fame, one of his big claim to fame was he wrote Never Been to Spain and Joy to the World for Three Dog Night.
Nice.
He was like a legendary songwriter. Who knew?
Huh.
Then the wife, the mother, Frances Lee McCain, she played Lynn Peltzer. She's in movies like Stand By Me. She's the mother to LaChance, to John Cusack, Wilbur Marshall's wife. Remember, bit part, a small role. Back to the Future.
Yeah,
he plays Lorraine's mother. So like 50s mom, and she's like, I didn't realize she's in these things. She's in Footloose, and she's phenomenal in this role, as is Hoyt so far.
Jason, the reason I was shaking my head is because I was thinking, if Sal Rodriguez's resume only had Stand By Me, Back to the Future, and Footloose, I would ride that home
to the moon.
Oh my gosh.
I stand corrected. And Stand By Me, it's not Wilbur Marshall. It's Marshall Bell. Apologies, Marshall. I've met Marshall. I know Marshall. He plays the dad. I always called him the jerk dad. Well, she's the wife to him, Marshall Bell.
The passive wife.
Key Luke is the grandfather, the Asian actor. He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. We lost him January 12th, 1991 at 86. I was rewatching a Woody Allen movie, Alice, a few months ago. And there he was. And I even stopped and said, who is this guy? He's incredible in this movie. And it was this actor, Key Luke. He also played Charlie Chan a lot in so many movies and on tons of TV shows. But he's really good. He is the owner of the mogwai, but he doesn't even sell the mogwai to Randall, I should say. His grandson sneaks him around and sells him on the side. So there's that. He did not want to sell him. Last couple here. Zach Galligan plays Billy Peltzer. He's also in Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai, the animated series, doing one of the voices that's currently on now. So it's another one of these spinoffs, right? Happening later, thanks to Cobra Kai. Gremlins 2, the new batch. He's also in that. And he was in Waxwork, which I thought you might know. Horror movie. Thought it might be up your alley. Not sure.
Was that from the early 90s?
I think either 80s or 90s. I'd have to look and see.
It sounds familiar. Yeah, I think it might have been a reboot of the old Vincent
86.
Price movie.
Or no, 88. 88.
Oh, okay. There was a Vincent Price movie. I think that might have been a reboot of it.
Well, there's also sequels to this. So then there is Phoebe Cates. We love Phoebe Cates. She plays Kate Berenger. She's in movies like The Anniversary Party, Gremlins 2, The New Batch. They got the cast back together. Shag, Bright Lights, Big City, one of my personal faves. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, legendary. And she is, of course, married to Kevin Kline.
Yeah, I just learned that like the other day. I just learned that.
What?
I never knew.
Wow. Okay,
you know
now.
Kevin Kline, lucky guy.
Lucky guy. Dick Miller plays Mr. Futterman. He's great. Rest in peace. Lost him January 30th, 2019 at 90. Had a great run. Wow. He's also in Gremlins 2, The New Batch, The Burbs, which I mentioned earlier, and The Terminator. Mm-hmm. He's the guy in the pawn shop, or no, the gun shop. When the Arnold goes in there and gets the guns and starts loading up the ammo, he's like, "Hey, you can't load that up in here." And he blows him away. That's this Dick Miller.
I remember.
Which we covered on Let's Talk Movies.
Wasn't Dick Miller also in
Oh, he's in tons of things.
But like way back in the what's the plant that comes alive? Little Shop of Horrors. I think he was originally in the original Little Shop of Horrors.
So then we have Corey Feldman. Yes, nice. Of the two Coreys. He plays Pete. The Lost Boys, Stand By Me, The Goonies. Actually, I think it's just Lost Boys. I like to throw the on there. Mm-hmm. So he's great in this. Young. What's funny is that him and Billy are friends, and it's like they're not brothers, but he's like, high school, junior, senior. Here's a middle schooler, or maybe he's a freshman, but they're just worlds apart. And then Judge Reinhold's in this movie. He plays Gerald Hopkins. Also works at the bank where Billy works, and of course, Kate works there as well. Beverly Hills Cop. Also Fast Times at Ridgemont High. All right, Hamilton. Spicoli at the end of the movie when Hamilton throws the coffee on the would-be assailant. But it's also great, Sal, seeing Judge Reinhold and Phoebe Cates together again because they have that classic, I'd say famous scene from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh, yeah.
It's a dream sequence. But isn't that wild that they got these two together here? Love it. And
Judge Reinhold,
lucky guy. And now let's get into the characters, okay? And we can introduce who's behind your shoulder, but there is one named Gizmo, and he is everyone's darling, and he is the main. He's on the poster. It's his little hands coming out. Everybody wants a Gizmo.
So cute.
Gizmo is a mogwai. And then there is, who voices Gizmo, you might ask? Well, that is one Howie Mandel.
I just learned that in the last few months, too. Why am I just learning about this stuff?
So, and then there is Stripe. And Stripe is a bad mogwai. Yep. And that is, the voiceover is Frank Welker, who has done so many voices. Look at his IMDb. It's like, oh my gosh. Well, Sal, I believe Stripe is in studio with you, Sal. So let's introduce ourselves to Stripe.
Yeah, I feel like I've adopted a small child here.
Wow.
Now, what makes this extra exciting is not just the fact that he's a beautiful, I will say action figure.
Yeah.
Some may say doll, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, no.
Is that this is a vintage. He's vintage because he's 84. Actually from 1984. Woo! This is probably one of the original releases that they licensed, in this instance, to LJN from 84. And I picked this up from a collectible store. It used to be in Burbank called Creature Features. Unfortunately, Creature Features is no longer, but I do have this remember Creature Features and, of course, Gremlins.
Wow, that is stunning likeness, I must say. Stripe, you're looking pretty good there, pal. Now, I have a question for you, Sal. Now, if it was I know you have some other mogwais around there. You have Gizmo and some others, but you said they're very, very small and you couldn't get to them. Not because they're small and you need like tweezers to get to them, but they're in another room. You have tons of toys and collectibles, figures, but they're very small. So he is like the big gremlin, life size.
Yeah, I think he's about life size. Yeah. Do we know how tall gremlins are?
No, I mean I could probably get that information.
Okay, I think he's about life size.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, would you say so?
But if you had Gizmo, I would just help. I would do the voice. I would fill in for Mandel, but I can't do Stripes. But I was always curious, just curious.
Yes.
How come he's not called Spike? It's spiked hair. It's a Spike. And when I saw the movie again, I was like, oh, it's Spike. Oh, they called him Stripe. Oh, okay. And I thought Spike also fit his personality more. Sure. He's a little rough around the edges. So I was just surprised he wasn't called Spike.
Yeah, stripe, I guess, like a pinstripe, I guess.
It is a stripe,
mohawk, right?
But it's a mohawk and it stands up. It's not just like a stripe that's the same height. Anyway, just my thought. Well, I'm going to play the trailer. We won't talk. We'll just take it in because of the audio, and then we'll delve into more. Okay? Sound good? Sound good, Stripe? Are you okay with that?
Stripe's going to watch too.
Yep, please. Give me just a sec.
Steven Spielberg presents Gremlins. Billy Pelser has a nice home.
Billy, is that you?
Yeah, Mom, it's me.
A nice job. A nice girl.
If you're not doing anything this Thursday night, maybe you'd like to go out on a date with me?
I'd love to.
And loving parents who are about to give him.
You're going to like this. No, don't shake it. We're going to have to open it now. It won't wait till Christmas.
The most unusual gift he ever got.
What is it?
No.
It's your new pet.
Come on, Barney, be a good dog. My dad gave it to me.
But there are a few things to keep in mind. If you expose it to the light, you may hurt it. If you get it wet, it will multiply.
All that from water? They got wet?
Yeah, plain water.
And most important, no matter how much they beg, never let them eat after midnight. Because when they do, they change. They become clever, mischievous,
here,
and dangerous.
Gremlins, eh? Little monsters.
Right.
Hundreds of them.
Well, I don't know, maybe thousands.
They've been here too. Billy, what are these things? Where did they come from?
Look, I know it sounds crazy, I know. But in a few hours, you're gonna have a major disaster on your hands.
Directed by Joe Dante. They'll be expecting you.
Well, Stripe loved that. Stripe loved that trailer.
Well, he made an appearance. So,
Jason, that lady who gets shot up the stairs, I'll never forget. I remember I saw the movie, and I remember thinking, that's Flo from Mel's Diner.
There you go. Yes, that's it is. Right. Yes, indeed. Let me bring this back up here. But yeah, very good trailer. And Sal, so delving into the movie again, I was really surprised how it held up. Yeah, there's silliness at play, but it's a well-told story. I love the setup. It's innocent. Here's a mogwai. And seeing it again, I just thought Gizmo was incredibly cute. You know, I put this movie in the rear view. In fact, I guess I was guilty thinking, oh, it's a kid's movie. Right. But it's more than that. It's not just a kid's movie. It works for adults as well. And I love movies in the 80s and 90s and see the periods. And of course, then you start to like look at the cast and crew who put it together. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, and yeah, I had some issues with some things, and listening to the commentary, I learned other things. For instance, before we get into some of the memorable scenes, Judge Reinhold is in the movie. I really like Judge Reinhold. And then at one point in the movie, he's gone. He works at the bank with Billy and Kate. He's trying to hit on Kate, Phoebe Cates. He's like assistant to the bank head, and he's trying to move up the ladder, and they all go to a bar after work and they're talking, but she's got her eyes on Billy. And then all of a sudden, Judge Reinhold is just written out of the movie. There could have been more. I think there were more scenes, but he was just cut out of the movie because the movie became more and more about this storyline for the Gremlins, and supporting pieces were gone. Corey Feldman, like I said, young friend to Billy, they're hanging out. Corey Feldman's the one that knocks water over on Gizmo accidentally, and we see the transformation. And that is a great scene. The first time, like, he gets water, and Gizmo's just so darn cute. Like, he's laying on the bed, watching movies with Billy, watching racing movies, like making little noise. He's like, oh, everyone wants a pet Gizmo. Sure. But the minute water gets knocked on him and you see him transform, these little balls that they bounce off like, bang, 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 and they become gremlins like him. Mogwai's just like him, but they weren't. They were a little bit different. Like, what do they say? Like, a replicate of a replicate's a little bit different. Like, they're not quite him, not quite his cuteness. He's spawning people that are a little bit different. Well, Stripe's one of them. But to be clear, he doesn't spawn that version of Stripe that you have right there. Where is Stripe? He's not even over your shoulder anymore.
Now he's looking at me.
Okay. So he doesn't become that until what happens, Sal?
Oh, this happens once you feed a Gizmo or other mogwai after midnight, right?
After midnight. Then they go to this metamorphosis transformation to a whole other level. But anyway, back to my point. Yeah, there were things. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a little clunky. What happened to that character? I also like the dog a lot. Barney, he's really good, really good character. So he's already got a pal. Billy's already got this pal. The dog goes to the bank with him and works at the bank and hides him from the people. Nice. And so it's kind of funny. And all of a sudden he's got another pet. And then the dog disappears for a bunch of the movie because he goes on a trip with the dad. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting. And Corey Feldman also kind of disappears. He has one more scene during the big outbreak at the end. And it's like, okay, because they just probably kept cutting and getting it down to this streamlined story. And it works. It makes you want to watch it again. It's not heavy. It doesn't linger too long. And there's some really funny stuff in it. So what comes to mind, Jason, for you?
Well, I was just going to say, then the implication is that Corey Feldman's and Judge Reinhold's characters were not pivotal to the storyline, right?
Supporting, very supporting.
But even though they're supporting, there's no resolution.
Well, you do get one more resolution with Corey Feldman. I mean, the night when everything's going crazy, his place is being attacked, so he does a couple things in his bedroom, like a slingshot, and then he cuts something, and one of the Christmas lights, because gremlins are hanging on there. They're just hanging. They're not even really moving, but he cuts it. So we're just to see, like, okay, the audience knows that he's okay. He's okay. But Judge Reinhold, no resolution. And also, we don't like him. He's not a nice guy. So it's like, screw that guy.
I don't remember that, because it would be very interesting to see Judge Reinhold. He has such that likability factor. I couldn't even imagine. Yeah, I couldn't imagine him being, sort of a slimy character.
More slimy. Like, he thinks, he's trying to, hey, you want to come over to see my apartment? Or what's he say to Phoebe Cates? Oh, you haven't been to my new apartment? And she's like, yeah, I never even saw your old one. But he's we're talking about cable television. He's just like, if I keep this up, I can be bank manager I'll be a millionaire by my 20s. Like, he's just a different cat. Yes. But funny nonetheless to see those two reunite on the big screen.
I gotta see it again.
And then, of course, like, as far as memorable scenes, Gizmo's introduction is fantastic. Like, I didn't think it would work on me now, and I thought, oh yeah, super cute. Where do I get one of those guys? But the rules, Sal. Let's talk about the 3 rules.
Yeah.
Right. No bright light. Bright lights will kill them. Yeah. So there's that. So you always have an out, a way to kill them.
Oh.
And then no water. So water on them, they multiply. Like, Gizmo had just a little bit of water and he pops 5 out. But Sal, if they can't have water on them, what do they drink?
Yeah, maybe they don't drink water,
They
which would
better
be
not.
strange, right? I mean,
What are they drinking?
Every creature has to have water, right? There's no such thing as a creature that doesn't drink water, right?
I know. So it works in the movie. So it's like, don't get him wet. Okay, great. Don't get him wet. Don't get him wet. I'm sure your cat, Esme, doesn't like to get wet, probably.
No. Sometimes, she likes to go outside. I'll let her out. When it's sprinkling, I go, okay, you want to go out? And she goes out and is like 30 seconds. She's like, back in.
I'm back in. I don't want to be wet. I don't want to be wet.
Doesn't like it.
But these guys, what do they drink? Do they drink milk? They just dismiss that. Don't get them wet. But the last one brings controversy. And it's also talked about and mocked in the sequel, because I watched the sequel right after just to say, like, okay, let's see what's going on here. Yeah. And it was enjoyable in its own right, but this is a much better movie. No feeding them after midnight.
Yeah.
Well, Sal, it's midnight somewhere in the world every moment. So midnight where? Midnight right where they're at, and that's what you go with.
You have to go with where they're at. Yeah,
you do. And the clocks get unplugged because they know the rules and they want the late night snack, and that's how that guy. He's the leader. To be clear, Stripe is the leader, even when he's just Stripe the Mogwai, the good one, the non-mean gremlin. They don't have a new name for them. When they transform into this, it's not like they're something else. They're just like the scarier versions. Look at him. Sorry. Hey, anything to say there, Stripe?
I think that, hang on. Stripe almost fell.
Oh, no. Can't have that.
No. See, he did it on purpose. He made me lose my train of thought.
That's it? You got nothing?
No, he made me lose my train of thought because he almost
You're done? You really are done? Okay, well, if you're not going to pick that thought up, the kitchen attack scene is probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. It actually is. It's incredible. The mother does a great job, and she doesn't have to, but she does. She kills one in a mixer.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great. So you don't have to kill them with bright light. You can kill them in a mixer. She microwaves one. Yeah. Fantastic.
Because they're flesh and blood. Yeah.
Stabs another one. But she has to, because they're haunting her. They're looking for her. Gizmo. Gizmo's safe. Gizmo. He's running around. But they put on a record. It's like there's this hints of a horror movie. All of a sudden there's a record, like an actual needle, playing a song. And she goes in, checks it out. And then there's gremlins. And they're mischievous, and they're looking to harm her. So she's got to flip the script. And I'm telling you, that sequence is it's not only phenomenal, it's fantastic. I'm combining the words, but you remember it, right?
Oh yeah. No, that's, I think, the most memorable scene, I think, from the movie, as far as the gremlins attacking and doing what gremlins do. I think that scene is probably most memorable.
Yeah, it raises the stakes. Like, this isn't just like cutesy. They're trying to kill her, and she just offed 3 of them. And Stripe was there, but he didn't kill her, and vice versa. So they also attacked the science teacher, wonderfully played by Glenn Turman, but they kill him.
Oh.
And I even read that, or heard on one of the commentaries, that they put a syringe in him because he got to experiment on one of the gremlins, the transformation ones, and he was running some tests, and he used a syringe, and so his death, they had a syringe in his backside.
And they're laughing.
But early versions of they may have even shot this. He had a bunch of syringes, I think, in his face area. They're like, okay, that's too dark. Let's tone the darkness. Still, he's dead. So, it's not like, well, they did not kill him. The pool.
Freddy Krueger. Jason, you remember Freddy Krueger killed somebody? I think might have been Dream Warriors, with the syringes in place of his blades on his glove. Yeah. So you know what? It's like Gremlins was gonna do it, but then they didn't. But then Freddy did.
Yeah. No, the guy did die with it, but they didn't.
But only one syringe.
One syringe.
Yeah.
So the pool scene. So basically, Stripe, his comrades are dead. It's just Stripe, and he's churned. He's this guy. He's this version of Stripe. And he goes to you should put him back over your shoulder again. I liked him over there. Okay. Hey, what's up, bud?
I'm walking.
So he makes it to I think it's the YMCA, and jumps in the pool. And that was another great idea, great scene, because it created just thousands of Gremlins. And what we learned when doing that,
wait a second. That created I got it. It wasn't going to kill him. The light.
And they don't go to the version before. They come out the mean version because he's mean. So you can multiply at that stage. And so when he jumped in the pool, you just see colors and bubbles, and it's like, this is going to create a ton of them. And he almost didn't make it, but when he jumped in the pool, smart thinking there. Wow. Stripe. Pretty good scene. Anything else stand out before I hit the last few that I have on my hit list?
No, I like that. And he doesn't sacrifice himself right? When you
he lives.
He lives. Yeah, okay, yeah. So it's not like it was even a self-sacrificial act. It was
just painful because whenever Gizmo gets hit with water, it's always like, oh no. He's like, it hurts him. But Stripe's like, he's got a plan. Yeah. And that might have taken it out of him, but you never know. You just see him later. Now he's got like a flock of more than a flock. He's got a ton of gremlins with him.
I feel like Stripe likes the transformation, unlike Gizmo, but like Eddie from The Howling.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some other great scenes. They go to the police station and they're explaining this to the cops. They're just like, they're not having it. They're like, Billy's like, what are they going to get with this? No, there's these little creatures. And actually, he took Gizmo. I think he took him and showed them. They're like, he think he's so, they did. And they thought he was so cute. Like, you know what? Go home, take Gizmo home, and go by your Christmas tree and open your Christmas presents. There's nothing to be afraid of. Well, the cops would later start to see the town implode, and they started like avoiding things like, we can't help him. Let's get out of here. Yeah. So great scenes. And they saw Miss Deagle's death, her fate, who played by Polly Holliday, who was, of course, Flo in Alice. She worked in Mel's Diner.
Kiss my grits.
Kiss my grits. Mel, do you remember her death?
Oh yeah, I mean that I think is one of the more memorable deaths. So yeah, so they have these seats that you hook up to your staircase if you could no longer walk up the stairs anymore. Yep. So you got to sit on the seat, and then it moves you up slowly and gently, up to the top or down to the bottom. Well, somehow Stripe or one of the other gremlins rigs it so that this thing, it goes like 100 miles an hour. Yeah, zips her up to the top of the staircase, and then what? She flies out the window. Is that what happens?
Right out the window.
Wow. Oh no. I forgot. You know what?
The sheriff saw that.
You know why? Because just to mention for a moment about the ratings. Yeah, as adults, and as an adult who's not accompanied by a child, I don't look at ratings. No. It doesn't occur to me. So I've forgotten that the gremlins kill people.
Yeah.
I forgot. I just thought they were like mischievous and like throwing food and stuff.
No. Stakes were raised.
That's right.
So she dies. They see that. There's also a great scene at a bar where the gremlins, the bad gremlins, are drinking, smoking, playing poker.
Yeah.
It just starts to go there. And it's also a time in the 80s when like there's jazzercise and breakdancing. Well, they brought that into the movie. So Gremlins, what we haven't talked about is quite smart, quite cunning. They just were born, they transformed, and now they have an agenda of meanness and chaos, but they figure things out. They figure out how to, rig her the charge in her chair. They do lots of things all over town because they've just figured it out. I don't know where they came from, Sal. We don't know that. These ancient beings, but they're highly intelligent and they can mock us. They talk, but they just more mimic. Then there's this great sequence, which leads to the climactic ending, but they're at the movie theater.
Oh, it's another memorable one. Yeah.
Memorable. It's chaos. And they're in the theater, they're doing crazy stuff, beating each other up, having fun. But the minute Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs comes on, they love it. They can't get enough of it. They're humming it, they're singing it. And that's when Billy and Kate and Gizmo start to realize, like, everyone's in the theater. They're all watching. This is an isolated place. We can, off them.
Oh, and wait, is this a spoiler?
Super spoiler. The movie came out in 1984, so.
I want to watch it again.
This is just rewatched. It's me. I just rewatched it. But I knew you had the figure and you had the interest and you'd seen it, so
I do.
Came on with me. Now this is your excuses to go watch it. But yeah, they kill most of them except for that guy right there.
Oh,
Mr. Stripe. And they have the final showdown at a department store. And it's great. Gizmo's driving a Barbie car.
Oh, yeah.
And he helps off Stripe with a water fountain and sunlight. And so Gizmo really in the end is the hero. Billy and Kate, of course, help. But yeah.
Wait, hang on, Jason. Jason, is this that little scene where Gizmo becomes Rambo?
That's in the sequel.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Hey, slow down there, hotshot.
I'm gonna see if I have that action figure.
So that's really kind of the beats, memorable scenes. Really fun though. Like I said, the score, the acting, the directing, and the effects. I mean, Wayless and team nailed it. It really is amazing. To hear them talk in the commentary, though, it was like sleepless nights. Nothing ever worked. They didn't know if they were getting the shot. And sometimes, just like Jaws and Spielberg, sometimes that leads to better filmmaking. They went a little crazy, but it was controlled chaos. And the audience will fill in the gaps. Like, no, I never saw the, mogwai walk, because they were saying they couldn't do things that they could do in the sequel, right? Because technology changed.
Okay.
But it was like, yeah, but I didn't miss those things. You need Gizmo to move around, stick him in a Barbie car.
Sure.
And then moving around the whole set sometimes on different scenes, Billy had a backpack. So, and I'm going to get into some really cool factoid here in a second.
Wait, hang on, Jason. That's almost a precursor to The Mandalorian there.
Well, I haven't seen The Mandalorian, so slow down.
Well, he's running around with a baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda, I've seen that advertised. But so the backpack helps get Gizmo around. And then if there's a tight shot of him in the backpack, he's like, oh, he's just sitting there because it gets him mobile, because this is a puppet that's very limited in nature. So is that, but the audience, am I questioning that? No, I'm questioning what happened to Judge Reinhold. What happened to Corey Feldman?
Yeah,
but
I need to know.
Why'd the dog disappear for a while? But anyway, so that is just broad strokes. It's just fun to bring some energy, some enlightenment, and knowledge, and share with you and share with our audience. But here's some trivia. Here is some trivia. Okay. Judd Nelson and Emilio Estevez were considered for the role of Billy. Interesting. They're both in The Breakfast Club, and I get that. That would have been cool. I'm down with that. But hey, Zach did a very good job as Billy. So, okay, that's one thing. Corey Feldman was added to the movie when Steven Spielberg dropped his character from E.T., the extraterrestrial. In both stories, he is and would have been the best friend of the boy who has the creature. So he could have been Elliot's little buddy, but he was cut because, again, you streamline movies. They had Drew Barrymore. You had enough components. Originally, Stripe and Gizmo, get ready for this, Stripe, were the same character.
What?
This changed when Steven Spielberg insisted on one of the Gremlins be a good guy with whom the audience could identify with. Director Joe Dante expressed that decision was the reason why the film is so fondly remembered. So I read more about that, and Chris Columbus's original script was much darker. So Gizmo churns, and when he gets transformed, by the water, but he churns into Stripe. And so that's why they were making the movie that way. That was the plan, the pre-production, everything's ready. Spielberg says, no, you got to keep Gizmo. He's so cute. He's so adorable. And they're like, you're right. But they weren't ready for that. So the backpack comes in handy. Different things come in handy. They weren't ready to keep. Gizmo was supposed to be cut out of the movie, a third of the way in. So they had to come up with new things. I didn't know that. That's fascinating stuff.
Yep.
And a great idea, a great call.
I think I've heard of Steven Spielberg make some kind of last minute decisions like that before.
It's good instincts is what we call it in the biz.
Yeah, it is. Well, it goes back to that whole Halloween story where they're like, oh, grab that William Shatner.
Grab that, Inside Out. right? Was it Inside Out? Yeah.
Well, no, well, I don't know if it, but they painted it. No, well, I don't remember. Anyway, the point is they grabbed the mask, and the rest is history. You know, so yeah, these last minute decisions that are just golden.
Golden. Well, now back to your original point on the rating. The overall dark and violent content of the movie led to the creation of the PG-13 rating by the MPAA, Motion Picture Association of America. It was this and another movie, Joe Dante was saying, but right around this time, they didn't know what to do with this movie because your usual PG's not enough, and rated R, an R rating would have really killed the box office.
Yeah.
This was a time when you couldn't drop your kids off and they go see Gremlins. You'd have to go in there with them. And so PG-13 was born.
You know, I remember the dawn of PG-13. I do, because I remember it went from PG to R, and then after PG-13 came NC-17. You remember that?
That was much later. Yes.
That was around for a while. But yeah, so which brings to mind then, when this movie came out in 84, if I went to go see it in 84, and yeah, I might have seen this movie by myself, you know, because if I was at a certain age where I would either lie down for a discount or lie up to get in.
Whatever it took.
Whatever it took. I'm 13, I'm 11, whatever it takes.
Yeah. I'm this many. Can I go? Yeah, get in there. Well, last trivia I have. This turned out to be not a scene-by-scene breakdown, but a longer episode. But I had to cover who made it. It's royalty. Spielberg all the way down to Chris Columbus. I mean, so I felt like I needed to share this information. So last trivia I have is the film is set, or the set for Kingston Falls, that's the town they're in, Kingston Falls, is the same one used for Back to the Future, which came out in 1985, the Robert Zemeckis film. Wonderful franchise. Both movies were filmed on the Universal Studios backlot. Now, on the set in the movie, there is a movie marquee, right? And you see two movies listed on there, A Boy's Life and Watch the Skies. And it's just, Billy walks by, his dog chases him, he's going to work, and you see this. And later they go back to this movie theater to see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Well, those two titles, A Boy's Life, Watch the Skies, were working titles for two of Steven Spielberg's classic films. E.T. the Extraterrestrial, A Boy's Life, Watch the Skies, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Love those little nuggets.
Yeah, and where you'll pause the movie and go, aha, I didn't know that before.
Yeah, I've always heard of Watch the Skies. I didn't know A Boy's Life. That was the working title for E.T., but
what an odd choice for even a working title.
Yeah, Boy's Life is another movie with Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio, which is very good and very dark. But yeah, not this Boy's Life. So that's all I got, Sal. That's all I got. Are you inspired to see Gremlins again?
I'm very inspired, especially since Stripe has been whispering over my shoulder, telling me I need to see the movie. And I could tell this is one of those movies where you may have to watch over and over again to see every little detail, especially like the movie theater. When you're looking at the movie theater scene, surely you got to watch it again to see every little gremlin doing their thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic. We'll have to come back and talk about the sequel, Gremlins 2, A New Batch, which I like it for its own, it's charming in its own way. It's got a lot of effects. It's a different story. A lot of the cast continued on, same director. So I'll save it for another time. This one was a deeper dive because there's just more of the hit list of players to get through.
Yeah.
But thanks you for joining me. Tons of fun. Anything else to add, Sal?
I actually do have one thing to add that I just remembered. I just remembered this. I recently, in the last couple of years, discovered the Key and Peele.
My God. That's all about the sequel, though.
That's about the sequel? That's not about just Gremlins in general.
No, that's the sequel.
Okay. Hey, we'll save that for next time.
Save it because it's one of the funniest skits I've ever seen.
It was hilarious. And yeah, we'll talk about it next time.
I'll bring you on for the sequel and we'll talk about it. But just to broad stroke it, they're coming on and talking about putting Gremlins 2 together what everyone's ideas are, because the budget's up in the air. And one thing that Joe Dante says on the commentary was he feels the sequel was too late. It was 6 years later. 84 came out in 90. He wished it had been 2 years sooner, but he said he fought them like crazy to make this movie the way, they had to fight for this scene and this and money and all that for the sequel. He said, I'll do it, but I got to do anything I want. And that's essentially what they said. They stood out of his way because the first movie made a lot of money and he went hog wild. And that scene, that skit delves into that. I laughed so hard. I've watched it like 3 or 4 times. We will talk about that on the follow-up. So
that's fun. And I will have my smaller mogwais.
Yes, please.
I'm looking forward to showing you those next time.
And you can bring Stripe, although he's not in the sequel, but he could still come and visit us.
Stripe's not in the sequel.
He doesn't make it out of the first one, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, Stripe.
So without further ado, please enjoy
Gremlins.
Thank you so much for listening, and please be sure to subscribe to the Let's Talk Movies podcast and the Let's Talk Movies YouTube live channel. You can also really help us by giving the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast.
And for all you listeners that enjoy sharing your thoughts, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, send us a direct message, or post a comment on any Let's Talk Movies social media platform.
We also highly recommend checking out our other podcast and visiting justcuriousmedia.com. Great job.